Insurers have seen it all. There's some fascinating stories out there, but that's probably another podcast. Because when you think about it, owning a home and that purchase of a home is the most expensive investment or purchase many of us will make in our lifetime. Anytime there's work done to your home, anytime there's something that you're bringing in that adds value to the property, it's good to have that conversation.
The Real Thought Exchange, powered by NSAR. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Real Thought Exchange, hosted by NSAR. With us today, we have Amanda Dean, the Vice President of IBC, the Insurance Bureau of Canada for Ontario and Atlantic Canada. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being with us. So why don't we start off by you telling us a little bit about yourself and the Insurance Bureau of Canada?
Sounds great. Insurance Bureau of Canada, or IBC, is the National Trade Association for home, car, and business insurers.
Okay.
Insurance companies don't have to be members of IBC, but about 90% choose to be members of IBC.
Okay.
Sometimes we get questions about life and health insurance. They have a whole other association.
Oh, I see.
So anything to do with your car, your home, or your business, that's what our members look after. So we work with our member companies, those insurance companies, on trends that are developing within the industry, things that we need to work with government on because insurance must comply with a whole host of regulations. Auto insurance is very heavily regulated.
Yes.
But on the home insurance side of things such as oil spills, that is regulated in terms of the process that must be taken in order to remediate, as well as building codes and things. So we're very interested in what government does on a whole host of areas. So we keep track of that. And when governments have consultations, we work to get consensus positions with our member companies so that government's not getting 250 submissions from insurers.
Okay.
We try to boil it down to what is the industry position.
Well, that sounds pretty cool. So you'd have to stay on top of a lot of government activity, I would suspect, because you don't want them getting too involved, but you want them involved at the same time.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of current day frameworks that we need to work with. Some of them were designed many, many moons ago, may not be as applicable, and as things such as AI develop, for example. Not only our industry's customers are using AI more and more, but insurers are figuring out ways to use it to serve their customers better and to evolve. The other way that we stay in touch with what's happening is we have a consumer information center, which is a great source of information, particularly for somebody like me who works with government and our member companies. We get to hear directly and get reports on what are some of those calls, including complaints and information requests coming from actual people who are out there buying these products, which is incredibly helpful.
Yeah. So kind of a nice segue into, you said you cover home, auto, and what was the?
Commercial.
Commercial, thank you. So what trends are you seeing in insurance right now at a high level in Nova Scotia?
At a high level, we're seeing, especially when it comes to building costs related to home insurance, we're seeing construction costs increase. So Stats Canada recently released their report comparing back to, I believe it was Q1 of 2019, the increase of construction costs in Canada.
Significant.
73% increase. And then here in Nova Scotia, just a little bit below that, our increase since the first quarter of 2019, 67%. So our industry is definitely feeling that. Anybody who has done repairs or construction on their home is certainly feeling that. But our industry is feeling that in terms of the policy obligations that they have with their policyholders, because as those costs increase, their obligations remain the same in that contractually bound piece of paper that we all get in the mail on renewal.
So I would make an educated guess there that if the costs of home replacement is going up, then the premiums are going to be affected as well. Like the replacement, if your house burns down, for example, the replacement cost is going to be more than it was in 2019. So are premiums being affected as well?
It certainly puts pressure on premiums. As claims escalate, it puts more and more pressure on premiums, and it has to. When you think about the general principles of insurance, that it's the premiums of the many that pay for the claims of the few.
Right.
And that's a good point just to stop on for a second, because sometimes we get calls from individuals who say, this is my first claim. This is all the money that I've paid in insurance over the years. Your money is not kept in an account for you.
Right.
Your money goes to pay for those claims for you.
It's pooled.
It's pooled, exactly, for you, your neighbors, and those in the broader community. And when you think about it, if your house is valued at, let's say, $500,000, it burns to the ground. We will never, as individuals, pay $500,000 in terms of premiums. So we need that pool of funds in order to pay those claims, and we all unfortunately need to pay our share, and sometimes an increasing share as those costs go.
Exactly.
So when you're talking about some of the claims, like in Nova Scotia, the storm surges, wind damage, flooding, what should somebody look when they're house hunting in the province or along the coast factor into their insurance?
Well, let's touch on the coast first. Typically, coastal is not covered. So anything to do with saltwater, the only exception is around the Bredor Lakes, which, believe it or not, has saltwater.
Water.
Exactly. So there is some coverage available for coastal flood. However, it's not abundantly available in the market because it's difficult to price. And if you are close to the coast, it's a matter of perhaps if or when, not if, that water will be coming into your living room.
In the U.S., certain states like Florida, California are the two I can think of off the top of my head. They have separate insurance just for that. Is that something that you see coming to Canada?
We have been in talks for a number of years with the federal government about a national flood program and what that could look like, and the need for coastal flood coverage, because it's not just Atlantic Canada. No. We're surrounded by a lot of coast. So those conversations remain ongoing, but there's a lot of, not necessarily hurdles, but there's a lot of steps to get over first. So consistent flood mapping. For example, the federal government has recently come out with a new flood portal, which would even the playing field in terms of individuals being able to access information about their particular property or their particular community. It's waiting on provinces to partner. They're not going to release provincial data without the partnership of provinces, which makes a lot of sense. So my understanding is those conversations are ongoing. So once we have a level understanding of what the flood risk is, and let's be honest, if you live in these communities, you have a sense of what areas flood and what areas don't.
Yeah.
However, though, we've seen such a transition from other provinces to here, so they wouldn't have that knowledge. So they're going to be relying on either insurance person or their realtor to have that knowledge shared.
Absolutely. And that's such a great point that when you're having those conversations with your realtor, also have some conversations with your insurance representative.
Always.
Because they have access to flood maps. So if you are interested in a particular property, we always advise early on in the process, reaching out to your insurance representative and start that conversation. There's nothing worse than when we get to our consumer information line, a call saying, I bought this property, I can't buy flood insurance.
So that was going to be that one kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I mean, I guess in the back of my mind, it makes perfect sense. But if you're buying your dream cottage with ocean frontage, you don't necessarily have flood insurance. So like if a hurricane comes through and you get the storm surges and your property floods, which they often do during these, you wouldn't necessarily be covered.
Depends on how the water enters the home.
Okay.
So to break it down, the way I think about it, and again, I know there's actuaries and folks in our industry that are far more detailed,
Right.
but the way I think about it, saltwater, typically not covered. Again, there is some coverage you can find within the market if you really look. Hurricane's a great example. So let's say the hurricane blows a tree through your picture window and rain enters the home. That is covered under a
That is
typical
covered. Okay.
policy. The roof blows off because the winds are just so strong. Water enters the home, covered under a typical policy.
Okay.
And then when our industry talks about flood insurance, we think about fluvial and pluvial flooding. So pluvial being rain and heavy amounts of pooling that overflows, and then it comes up over the door sills or worst case scenario, window sills.
Yes.
Can't imagine
Yeah,
rain is
wow.
that
Well,
heavy.
it happens.
It happens,
Bedford,
though.
not
Yeah.
a couple years ago.
Yes.
Exactly, or fluvial, those bodies, those rivers that
Right.
overflow, and we've seen that not that long ago just here in this province.
Okay, so hurricanes. Let's talk about hurricanes first, for an example, and wildfires. You know, we live in Nova Scotia. We're right on the Atlantic Ocean. It seems like our hurricanes since one have grown in intensity or frequency. And then, sadly, over the last couple of years, we've had wildfires. So how do the frequency of the occurrences impact homeowner insurance?
Oh, it impacts greatly because, again, that pool needs to be replenished. So when we look at the Tantalon wildfire, for example, that event cost $165 million in insured losses. So that doesn't account for what the province paid, what the municipality paid for the destroyed municipal infrastructure, or what wasn't insured, unfortunately. So $165 million in that event, 16,000 people displaced from their homes. So that also includes the additional living expenses that those individuals would have been able to access through their home insurance policy as well. But 151 homes damaged or destroyed, 200 buildings in total. So that was certainly a significant event. So it's also not something that we've traditionally thought about in terms of severe weather in this region. The hurricanes are the ones that we tend to see more frequently. So going back to Hurricane Fiona in October of 2022, that seems so long ago now, but
it really wasn't.
But it really wasn't. $412 million in terms of payouts just in Nova Scotia alone. That particular event impacted all four Atlantic provinces.
It hit PEI really hard as well.
It hit PEI very, very hard.
The northern part of this province is still you can see remnants of it that hasn't been cleaned up yet.
Absolutely. And 2019, Hurricane Dorian, that was a $42 million event as well. So when you're talking about those kinds of numbers, they add up. And it's also important to note that that's just the cost of those severe weather events from an insurance perspective. There are still house fires that happened before and after those events.
Backups, sewer backups.
There are sewer backups. There are other claims that happened and insurers responded to.
So this topic fascinates me. Sorry, Sandy.
Yeah, that's okay.
I know in California in particular, because of the amount, like they have wildfires yearly, it seems, or monthly almost. Homeowners are at the point now they cannot get home insurance for wildfire protection. With the frequent, like it's been 2 summers now in a row where we've had wildfires in Nova Scotia.
And losses.
Sorry?
With losses.
With losses. So do you see, is it on IBC's radar where the cost of that kind of coverage will impact, like, not just your new home buyers, but the existing homeowners as well?
The California is a really interesting example that the Canadian insurance market has been taking a look at and examining from so many different perspectives as an example of what not to do as a government.
Okay.
So
well, there we go.
Here we go. So how government ties into this is you have California, a lot of exposure to wildfire. It has been that way for a very long time,
Yes.
unfortunately. And instead of building resilience and investing in what could make communities resilient to spread of wildfire,
Right.
what we saw was an insurance regulator that decided to cap insurance premiums
I see.
as opposed to encouraging government to invest in resilience. And when I say invest in resilience, it's not a secret. There's organizations like FireSmart
Right.
and the Institute for Catastrophic Loss Reduction. They have great tips for governments of all levels, in addition to homeowners, right on their websites. We could Google it and
Like
go
building
on.
fire breaks in communities, berms, I
Absolutely.
think
Cleaning
they're
out
called,
some
or-
of the underbrush in the original forests.
Exactly. And steps that you can take even at the individual homeowner level.
Right.
So instead of investing in those mitigating measures, what the state of California did was say, okay, insurance companies, you've got to stop increasing home insurance premiums. So we're going to put a cap on what you're able to charge.
I see.
What that did is it got to a point where some insurers couldn't afford to
Yes.
offer coverage because, again, if you're offering these contracts, you've got to have the money in order to pay those claims. So that's when we saw insurers starting to pull out of that California market or excluding wildfire from their coverage, which is unfortunately where some of those folks were left. So we are not at that point in Canada,
Okay, that's
but
good to hear.
it's certainly a really good example of what not to do. So we are working with our industry's regulators and government officials because investing in prevention, and we know it's tough. It's tough in an era where healthcare costs, education, everything is
Everything's
going
going
up. But to protect our communities, it's
Insurance is one of those items that you dislike to pay, but you're certainly glad it's there when you need it.
Yeah.
It's it's a necessity, and hopefully you never need to access that necessity. But it's
Absolutely.
always nice to have that the safety net there in times of need.
It
So, for
really
sure,
is,
yeah.
because when you think about it, owning a home and that purchase of a home is the most expensive investment or purchase many of us will make in our lifetime.
Yes.
So being able to protect that asset is
100%.
incredibly
So if
important.
you could wave a magic wand, what's the one thing that you would like to see possibly that at the government level for Nova Scotia that you could change with regards to insurance?
Oh, that's a great question. In terms of the conversations that are ongoing with the provincial government in terms of wildfire prevention and even flood, it's really encouraging. And there are some really good steps being taken. There are some incredibly talented individuals within the provincial government who have been studying these things for years and years. So it's quite frankly a matter of dollars and cents. If I could wave a magic wand, everything else would remain perfect and we could invest in resilience. But it's we don't live in a perfect world. So taking steps, whether it's investing in sewer and wastewater infrastructure, it's not something a lot of people like to talk about. We in our industry think it is one of the most glamorous things to talk about, sewer and wastewater infrastructure.
Oh, well, there you go.
Because it keeps water out of basements, and it keeps,
Yeah.
even if you have full coverage for an event like that, going through the trauma and the process to have to clean it up is certainly impactful. So anything from expanding sewer and wastewater pipes where we have subdivisions being built that are feeding into those pipes built for capacities of 30, 40, maybe even 80 or 100 years ago.
They're not up to par.
Yeah, exactly.
We're beyond those capacities flowing through those pipes on a daily basis.
Wow, that's a messy job. A stinky one, too, I would suspect. So one of the trends that we're seeing in our industry is different styles of homes. So, you know, we have your traditional 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom, 3-bath home. You have tiny homes now. You have container homes now. You have people living on houseboats part of the year. How is the insurance industry adjusting to the new styles of homes? And what about 3D printed homes or modular homes that are built off-site and then taken to the site and reconstructed. Like, is that on, like, how is the industry evolving to accommodate those styles of homes?
Doing the research. So we rely heavily on the research of those industries that are coming up with these new innovations. So our business is taking a look at risk and what is the risk that loss will occur, so that we can best manage the money as an industry that we're collecting from all policyholders so that we can respond to those few that will have a claim. So as innovations happen in building materials and evolutions happen in terms of how people want to live, we're taking a look at how we can respond. And so whether that's looking at the research for modular homes and the standards with which they are built to, we rely a lot on building codes. We're an industry that really reads those building codes. Certainly before I was in the insurance industry, I knew it was a thing that existed. I've never been so fascinated with them, as certain things can mean that structures are built to last a little bit longer.
Would it not make it a lot easier? And I'm just throwing this out here.
You're going probably the same direction I'm going.
Like, we know that the building codes from province to province and municipality to municipality vary. Would it not be easier if we just had a standardized building code
Across Canada,
or at least in
provincial.
like-minded or no, maybe not like-minded, that's a poor choice of words, but like communities that are alike. Like Atlantic Canada, most of the regions deal with the same issues, flooding, hurricanes, et cetera, et cetera. We're not that much different in terms of climate and such. Wouldn't it be a lot easier if we had standardized building codes?
Absolutely. And I'm going to say the dreaded H word, harmonization.
Oh,
It's something our industry would love to see, because, again, the more building codes and regulations and laws differ, the more regulatory compliance officers we need to hire in order to ensure that these insurance companies are complying with everything that is the law of the land. So the more harmonization there is, particularly in a region like ours that is relatively geographically diverse, but we've got a lot of similar challenges with hurricanes and so on. The more consistency, the better. The easier that it is.
Sure.
And quite frankly, it would take, dare I say, cost out of the system. So.
It would certainly make it a lot easier, I would think. It would bring the cost down.
so on that note, do you actively advocate on that premise with the governments?
We do. Absolutely, we do. We also dig right into those provincial building codes as well. And we recognize that some provincial building codes even go a few steps beyond where the current federal building code is. So we don't want anybody to take a step back. So we approach it from the perspective that this is a bit of a marathon, not a sprint. And when you think about when all of these building codes were first drafted, they were drafted with the best of intentions.
Sure.
The internet didn't exist. We didn't quite know what it was like to live in Alberta.
No, absolutely.
But we are certainly much more attuned to what's happening in other parts of the country. So I think we're at that point, and customers are demanding it because, to a point I believe that you raised earlier, people that move from one province to another,
Exactly.
they expect a similar level of service, a similar level of rules. So when a claims adjuster is trying to explain, no, that's different here because it can only help everyone.
Now, would the builders and investors, would they be helpful in trying to make that happen, or the realtors themselves, like as an association, is that something that can work hand in hand? Or
I think the more voices on this one, the better. And when you look at builders, I think we're breaking down those provincial barriers that once existed, hopefully.
Yeah, we're getting there.
We're getting there. We're becoming a bit more self-contained, a bit more resilient out of necessity, which is a good thing. So the more of those barriers that we can break down, the better.
Kind of pivoting just a touch. So we have approximately 2,200 members in the province of Nova Scotia. realtors are very mobile, and a lot of realtors use their car or vehicle, I should say, as a secondary home office, if you will. Do you have any tips or tricks on, when it comes to insurance, on how to ensure they have the proper coverage for treating their vehicle like a home office? Like, I'm sure they put a lot of mileage on it. Most times they're leased, but they run their business out of their car and their phone. So any tips or tricks on, to ensure they have the proper coverage
In the event
of something awful happens, or they get an offender bender, just to make sure they're getting the best value for their premium?
Absolutely. The best tip is to have an open and honest conversation with your insurance representative about how you're using your car. Now, with car insurance, it's a bit different than home insurance. With car insurance, it's very heavily provincially regulated. Okay. So the car insurance I buy is the same as the car insurance you buy in terms of what we are purchasing. Okay. Now, what our companies can offer it for may differ based on how many speeding tickets I have.
Right.
Don't tell my insurer. No, I don't. Ticket infractions or collisions, there's those sorts of variables that play into it. But at the end of the day, it is the exact same product that insurers are regulated to sell within the province. Now, the difference is if you own your car, you don't have to carry collision coverage. If you have a loan or if you have a leased vehicle, you do have to have collision coverage. So collision is that coverage that pays for your vehicle in the event that you are in a collision. So if your car is paid for, if it's an older model, you can remove collision from it. If you are going to, you need to have a really open and frank conversation about what that means. Certainly if you're a realtor, and using that for business purposes, I would guess that's probably not a good step to take. Right. One of the things, though, that would be great for realtors to ask, especially where they rely so heavily on their vehicles, is check for the amount of rental car coverage that you have. So every policy is a little bit different. Every company offers different limits. Okay. So rental car coverage, that's if you are in a collision, your car is banged up, it needs some tender loving care at your local mechanic. Sure. It could be there for a series of weeks. What is your rental car coverage? How long are you covered for? And will it last until your vehicle is repaired? So just knowing, is it a set amount? Is it a number of weeks? Have that conversation.
Just so much per day for a limited amount of time.
Yeah,
exactly.
What kind of vehicle are you going to get? Is one similar to what you're driving? Are you taking a severe downgrade?
Exactly.
That sort of thing. And I know from personal experience, waiting for car parts can really add to the extension.
And it's probably not much better now because of just the cost of everything and back and forth across the border, which we don't have to go into all that, but it's going to all affect.
Oh, it absolutely is. And we certainly, as an industry, keep an eye on car part availability, specifically in this region. A lot of car parts are warehoused outside of this region. So you're looking at shipping, potential delays, depending on what's happening with
and where they originate from.
Exactly, where the parts are originating from, exactly.
So I'm a new homeowner. I've had my apartment insurance. So I'm looking at a new home. At what point do I start looking at home insurance? Should I start that early on in the process, or do I, after I've made an offer, do I look for home insurance? What would you recommend? At what point during the process of my home search should I start considering home insurance?
We love getting these calls to our consumer information line, and we do, which is great. There's some first-time home buyers who are certainly doing the research. We always recommend the minute that you think that you're going to start looking, especially if you've been paying tenants insurance, give your insurance representative a call, let them know. They can provide you with some of the questions that you will be faced with
Right.
when you say, I've made an offer, I found my dream home, so that there's no surprises.
It could be on the coast, and
It
you
could
might
be
not
on
have
the-
flood
exactly.
insurance.
You're
Yeah. Okay.
You're going to want to know.
Yeah.
And unlike tenants insurance, which covers your contents because you don't own the apartment, but a typical tenant's policy covers your contents liability if you or someone visiting you does damage to the building, in addition to additional living expenses if you have to vacate because there is significant damage to the building. So that's what a typical tenant's policy covers. Now, when you get into a typical home insurance policy, it's the building and outbuilding,
And
your
liabilities.
contents and liability. Do you have a home business? Will you be having a home business? That liability is going to change, especially if you have couriers coming to and fro.
I suspect a lot of realtors probably have a home office.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So is there enhanced foot traffic as a result? Do you have clients coming to your home? What is the potential for liability claims? Because insurers have seen it all. There's some fascinating stories out there, but that's probably another podcast.
Could have one
I
just
could,
on
I
that.
could probably join you on that one for different reasons.
Exactly. I'm sure you could. And that all important additional living expenses. And that's, again, if you are unable to live in your home due to an insured peril, how are you going to live?
So just a quick, I have a two-part follow-up on that. So what are some of the, for lack of a better term, hidden gems or riders that homeowners often overlook that would be of benefit, I guess, on a home insurance policy?
That's a great question. There's so many riders, but let's start with your choices for home insurance policies.
Okay.
So there's the comprehensive home insurance policy, which I think a lot of us have. That's typically where an insurance representative will start, just as it provides coverage for the building and your contents and everything.
Okay.
And in that comprehensive policy, you can see a guaranteed replacement cost.
Okay.
So what that means is what you have will be replaced with like, kind, and quality.
So this is kind of like if you have a family heirloom that's worth a lot, like a painting or something like that. Is that,
Those
or
are
is that
special-
something different?
That would be on a
riders.
rider. Let's get to
Okay,
that in a minute.
okay, sorry.
So granite countertops.
Okay.
If you had a granite countertop, the home was destroyed, you would get a granite countertop.
Okay.
An actual cash value policy, if you see those words in your policy, that means you get the actual cash value for the current day value of what was in your home.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the TV you bought in 2005, it's not worth as much as you may have paid for it back then, given technology. But a guaranteed replacement cost, you get that TV replaced.
Okay.
So check for those terms. So that's comprehensive. A broad home insurance policy, basically comprehensive coverage on the building, and then perils coverage on personal belongings.
Okay.
So for specified perils, you get coverage on your contents.
Okay.
Now, basic or named perils policy, those pay out in the event of those specific perils,
What's
fire,
thank you.
for example, that are listed in the policy. And then a fourth policy that's not as widely talked about, a no-frills policy. So that's if that's a bare minimum policy.
Okay.
That would respond in certain circumstances. And it's especially for those buildings that aren't necessarily insurable. So let's say you inherited a building that had been vacant for a while.
Right.
And there hadn't been insurance. Nobody's been in the building. Clearly, there's probably a lot of work that needs to be done.
Sure.
The wiring might not meet code and so on. A no-frills policy is something you could access while you're getting some renovations done to that particular building. So,
Okay.
good
So
to
if
have a
somebody gets
conversation.
injured there, or you're doing it yourself, and that would be covered?
Well, then you need to have a conversation about builder's risk. So, and especially, but now if you have professional contractors in,
They'll have their own insurance.
so again, depending on what you have and how you're using it, you need to have that conversation because there's typically a product
Sounds
you can
like
access.
the consumers want to always have an insurance agent on their side, like they have a realtor on their side to handle all of these things along the way.
So if I was going to say,
I just have my second part of my question.
No, go for it.
In Nova Scotia, it's no secret that we have one of the oldest populations in Nova Scotia. And what we're finding is we have a lot of our parents or older relatives moving in with their siblings, or their homes have to be retrofitted for disabilities or accessibility or that sort of thing. So I'm going to use myself as an example. My parents are close to 80 now. Let's say at some point they have to move in with me and I have to retrofit my house because it's a split entry, lots of stairs, and I have to put in one of those seats that go up the stairs sort of thing. Do you notify your insurance company of these changes that are being made? Because that's going to add significant costs to the home. And if it were to burn down, there would be significant replacement costs that weren't there pre-renovation. So if you're doing renovations, you should let your insurance company know right away.
Absolutely. Let your insurance company know, because if you want to have a stair lift, if
That's
your house
the word I
was
was looking
that's
for,
right.
yeah.
I've had some experience with my mother-in-law with those.
Okay.
But yes, if you want to have your stair lift replaced, then absolutely let your insurance company know. If you're doing renovations and you're upgrading, let's say you're removing the carpet from your home and installing hardwood, that certainly increases the value of what you would want replaced, what your expectation would be in the event of a loss. Likewise, if you're going from maybe hardwood to carpet,
Okay.
letting your insurance representative know. If you're swapping out the oil tank, we love talking about oil tanks.
Yes.
If you're swapping out the oil tank, you're upgrading.
Electric and plumbing, all of those.
All of those things. If you're going from a single bottom to a double bottomed oil tank, or moving to electric, or whatever.
Adding a
the case
deck
may
or a
be.
patio or anything like that as well?
Absolutely.
Secondary suite?
Let your insurance representative know. And in the case of in-laws moving into the home to be looked after and to keep them safe, let your insurance representative know as well, because they're going to come with contents.
Yes.
And they will likely need those contents replaced. So have that conversation. On the other end of the spectrum, it also bears repeating that if you have young people that you're responsible for, under the age of 21, whether they are living in your home or are away at university, their contents are covered under your home insurance policy typically.
Wow, did not know that one.
That's always a good sign to know. And usually around back to school time.
September.
In September, we run some back to school campaigns that if you're over 21, that's when you may want to start thinking about a tenant's policy.
So if you're thinking about first-time buyers where money's really, really tight because they're trying to get all this, like their down payment, make that, get approved for a mortgage, they've got to get the insurance. How do you tell them the best way to approach insurance probably for the first time in their lives, to do it well but not at an extravagant price?
Ask lots of questions. And sometimes the real estate value of a home is not the same as replacement value. So again, in the case of a home burning to the ground, your policy covers you for the bylaws that you are obligated to abide by. So that includes remediating the property. You can't just leave a burnt out foundation in any municipality. So the cost of that, of trucking the debris away and remediating is also included in that policy. So ask lots of questions. Be curious. It is going to be an expense, but it's an expense that you need, especially if something goes wrong. And especially for new home buyers, when those pennies are tight, if something goes wrong, that's when you really need it.
So, having said that, with the cost of everything going up, how does one pick the best insurance person for them? Like, would you recommend interviewing 2, 3, 4 different insurance companies? Like how I guess, where's the best place to go to find out information, like in your community or whatever? Like who will insure me?
Yeah, that's a great question. So,
I can answer for what a realtor probably does, and then you can answer
Sure.
what somebody probably should do. I often will refer to one of the brokers that offer many different companies insurance,
Okay.
so you can
Yeah,
compare.
I kind of figured, but yeah.
That's what I do, because then you don't have to keep repeating all the same information, and you can find out what the differences are, because quite often they're very, very different quotes between 3 companies.
absolutely. So brokers are certainly one channel. There's also insurance companies that write direct.
Okay.
So if you are shopping for insurance through a broker, jot down what insurance companies that broker shopped you with.
Right.
Maybe you want to call a second broker.
Okay.
And you can let them know, okay, I've already been shopped with insurer A, B, and C. They might have access to different insurance companies in different markets. And then, of course, if you're calling one of the direct writers, they may
Have something different.
something different as well. But making sure that you're asking consistent questions.
Right.
My property is this many square feet. The percentage is, 50% hardwood, 50% ceramic tile.
Right. Okay.
Letting them know the exact same pieces of information.
Yeah, you get out of something as much as you put into it. So the more time
Absolutely.
you spend doing your research, probably the better off you're going to be.
Absolutely. And, look, I work in the insurance industry. I think it's fantastic. I think it's fascinating. I recognize I am not normal in that respect. When you
Sorry.
you agree.
Hey,
though.
my background is finance. A lot of people glaze over when you mention numbers. So
Exactly.
yeah.
But it's when you look at it that we're buying these contracts, which it comes down to, it's a piece of paper. But that piece of paper is so incredibly important if something goes wrong. So when you're shopping and you're that first-time home buyer, or whether you have artwork. So back to your question about
Yes.
artwork and jewelry. Typical home insurance policies have limits for artwork and jewelry. It could be $5,000.
Silver sets, if you still have them from
Silver what,
Exactly.
sorry?
silverware sets.
Oh, silverware sets. Okay.
Yes, if you've inherited from your great aunt and you
Right.
just don't know what to do with it, but you still have it.
Yeah. Understood.
It's taking a look at what you have, because there is a limit on insurance policies for those types of
Right.
things. It could be $5,000. It could be $10,000. That's the limit on your policy. If you have items that are valued higher than that, that's when you look into endorsements. So what that means is you will need appraisals. In the case of jewelry, whether it's your engagement ring or other pieces of jewelry, or you have some of those Maud Lewises hanging in your home.
So what would a typical, I guess, limit be for your quote-unquote average home insurance policy in Nova Scotia? What would the limit be on I guess, the riders?
Yeah. If you're
Or-
getting a rider or an endorsement, those words are
sorry.
used interchangeably. The sky's the limit. So
Okay.
if you have $5 million worth of artwork, you can insure that.
Okay.
The
I was thinking,
You will pay
like if
for
you
that,
had,
but you
like,
can insure
if
it.
a lot of people are into watches. So if you have like a Rolex or
Yes.
a Paytech or something like that, I mean, these things go for tens of thousands of dollars. Just you want to make sure that is specifically stated on a was it an endorsement?
an endorsement.
An
yes.
endorsement that, you have 3 Rolexes. I'm being a little facetious here, but you could, or 3
Absolutely.
Rolexes in the home. And,
There's somebody out there listening that
Yeah.
that has 3 Rolexes,
Okay.
and they should get an endorsement.
Okay.
We talked a lot about first-time home buyers, but say you've been in your property multiple years or maybe 20 years. How often would you recommend somebody go back and update their contents, their replacement value. Because I know for me personally, somebody hadn't actually physically walked through my house for probably close to 15 years. So it was like long overdue.
Every 5 to 10 years. So if you're someone who doesn't do a lot of upgrades, we're in Nova Scotia. We all have those relatives who have furniture for decades.
With the plastic on the coach.
Exactly. No judgment. Then, 5 to 10 years. But yeah, every 5 years, it's good just to reassess what it is that you have. What have you purchased in the past 5 years? What upgrades have you made? Sometimes we just go through life and we need to get a new dishwasher. So
But you don't think of calling your insurance company and say, hey, I got a new set of appliances.
Exactly. Or if, the hot
really
water
good point.
tank explodes and you need to get that done. That's also a good thing to let your insurance representative know. Anytime there's work done to your home, anytime there's something that you're bringing in that adds value to the property, it's good to have that conversation.
And I suspect, the elephant in the room, so to speak, is a lot of people probably don't do that because they know if I call my insurance company and say, hey, I just got $30,000 worth of new appliances put in, it's going to impact my premium in their eyes, a negative way, that the premium is going to go up. So I suspect that might not be why some folks are a little hesitant to do that. So what is your advice to those folks that it's insurance, they're looking to, have it out for me. But at the end of the day, if they have that, God forbid, fire, their replacement values on their old appliances, not their new $30,000 appliances.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
And it comes down to what is on that piece of paper. What is your insurer's understanding of what you have?
Right.
And if that has been upgraded, then they don't know that. They can only go by that contract that they have with you. And upgrading your appliances may very well help relieve some of that premium pressure, especially when you think about washers and dryers on the top floor of homes becoming more and more common. So if those washer hoses are replaced on an annual basis, there's less likely that there's going to be water running down into the kitchen. So
that's a good point.
It could improve. It could improve things.
Same with snow tires in the winter. You put my understanding is if you put snow tires on your car and tell your insurance company, there's a little break on your insurance.
It's one of those things that insurers use to be competitive. Though it's interesting, the first snowfall of the season, 4-wheel drives with all winter tires are usually the first ones to make a claim because they're very confident.
Yeah.
We still need to drive for the conditions.
Okay.
That comes down to operator error.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
For some of the landlords, that's one that I was kind of curious about, or people just getting into becoming like a small investor where they're going to have maybe 2 or 3 rental properties. Any specific recommendations there?
Risk management policies. It's when you get into becoming a landlord, it's no longer a residential policy like you and I have on our homes.
Right.
It's a commercial policy. You are making money from this endeavor. So your risk is going to be different because you're not at that property all the time. So what are you doing to risk manage that
Mitigate
situation?
any potential loss.
To mitigate the potential loss. How is the property being used? What is your contact with the individuals in those properties as well? And maintenance. What are you doing? You are responsible for the maintenance of that property. So if one of the boards on the front step is a little loose and that's a bit of a tripping hazard, how often are you doing walkthroughs and making sure that you're maintaining the property? How responsive are you or your team in terms of checking out things that are reported by the tenants as well?
So if you did have in place a risk management policy, like for example, you have a furnace forced hot air furnace, and you get it serviced every year. And you do biannual or every 6 months you do a home inspection just to make sure. If you documented that and gave it to your insurance company, that would help.
Absolutely. And when you're seeking to obtain insurance, if you document that process so that they have that process on file. So if something happens, they can pull that out of the file and say, okay, this is what they're doing every 6 months. This is what we understand is occurring every 12 months.
Or the repairs or updates that you've made in the meantime as well.
Exactly.
Okay. That's good to know too.
It's all very helpful. Excellent. And are you also, one of the questions that commercial underwriter may have is, do your tenants have a tenants package? Because what if something goes
should
wrong?
Be mandatory.
Absolutely, because
and that can be written right into the lease.
Tenants are not covered under the landlord's policy. So if something were to happen, you certainly don't want those people left out on the sidewalk.
Excellent. So any closing thoughts for us? Like,
we've kind of taken you everywhere.
Yeah, we kind of have, but I mean, insurance is a fascinating topic. So in terms of, our membership, our realtors, anything that they should be, that we haven't covered off that you would like to share with our members?
Well, we have a lot of resources on our website. So we are happy to provide information.
So what is your website?
It is ibc.ca.
Oh, very easy. ibc.ca.
Very easy. We do have a lot of resources and hopefully tips when shopping for insurance. We didn't touch on condominium insurance, which is a whole other
different thing.
Well,
so it's a sale of one. So
absolutely, because there's the portion you are responsible for as the condo unit owner,
right?
And then the policy for the condo corporation that covers the building. So there's a bit of a division there as well. But also our consumer information line, by all means, reach out. It can be a resource for realtors as well as consumers, whether you're a first-time home buyer or are in the midst of a claim and just want to know the right questions that you can ask your adjuster to help you navigate that insurance process. We like to demystify the insurance process as much as possible.
Excellent.
Yeah, there's a lot of myths out there with regards to insurance.
There is, because somebody's cousin is always the advice that's taken. We're here as well.
Leave it to the professionals, right? Yeah. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, IBC will be at NSAR Day coming up in November as an exhibitor. We thank you for that. If you're listening to the podcast and you have some questions or you just want to talk, I don't know if Amanda will be there, but representatives from IBC will be there. So that's a great way to get your questions asked.
Absolutely, and we're looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you for having me.
Very much appreciate it.